So what I'm going to be speaking about a little bit today is a little bit about what we do at the association, at the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association, and really advocating and helping adult non-alcoholic beverage brands. One of the key areas is obviously the regulatory landscape. But our mission is really to promote, protect, and grow the overall adult non-alcoholic beverage category with a unifying voice really from production to marketplace. So that adult is underlined, and we were intentional about using the word adult. So it's products that are marketed towards adults of legal drinking age, 0.5 ABV or below. So that's how we define the adult non-alcoholic beverage category, and really thinking about this in kind of a universal way. The other thing we really want to do is create some overall industry standards. And that's important because we want to kind of self-regulate in a lot of different ways, or if there is some regulation that goes into a state or federal level, that we're kind of leading the charge and it's built around what's conducive for the growth of the category and there's not unintended consequences. So I'll give you a little bit of an example. So there was a story that gained some traction. I think it was last year. And there was a researcher that was calling for limits. I'm trying to see age limits of non-alcoholic beers, as well as IDing in all states. Her thesis was that there's a risk of if these products are out there, there's a risk of younger people consuming these products. And specifically, if you have a Heineken 0.0, it's a gateway for minors to be able to drink Heineken full strength. There's no evidence of that at all globally that exists. It's called alibi marketing. But there's limited research on that as well, but that isn't. So they were kind of creating these concerns without any evidence, kind of making some suggestions. She was likening them to, remember the old cigarettes that are that had candy and sugar? Granted, they're fake cigarettes and they're candy and they're sugary and kids are going to consume those. But she was kind of likening that, and there wasn't really a strong connection. So we ended up, there was an NPR story. We ended up suggesting that this isn't the case, and we don't want. She was asking for states to have regulation, much more heavy regulation across for these products. When the reality is that if you do that, it puts more and more hurdles for small, innovative brands to be able to grow and increases cost, and then there's less availability in the marketplace. So that means that the opposite of what she's looking to do, which is reducing alcohol, her whole thing is reducing alcohol consumption in general. The unintended consequences, there's less NA options available. So we actually did reach out to her. I reached out to her. We had a conversation with this researcher, and she's from Stanford, and was really well-intending. She intended well, was trying to build a little bit of her career around this topic, and then we kind of pointed out that if she goes down this path, it's actually going to result in less products available for that. So less NA products available. So one of the things we're looking to do is the category is very young, but we're trying to kind of get ahead of these things and then also create some overall standards and guidance for the overall category. And then if you were here earlier, Brandy Rand, who could raise her hand, she gave some she probably has the most up-to-date data. And I'm going to show you probably some that's probably a little bit like 6 months to a year old. But this is kind of one of the key things, that over 90% of purchasers of non-alcoholic products also purchase alcohol products. So just recognizing that who is the consumer, and it's people that drink both alcohol and non-alcoholic. It is growing double digits each year, which is great. And then the other thing that I kind of wanted to share of just the overall growth of the category, just quickly, is that it tended to be like big spurts of dry January, but it's actually growth over the whole entire year. So people are purchasing the products throughout the year, not just in these spikes in January or during kind of the holidays. And then one other kind of interesting fact is that, so for example, and this is on premise, beer growth is decreasing, whereas NA beer growth is actually increasing over a 52-year period. So overall, if you want kind of more up-to-date stats, you'll probably be able to get access to the presentation from the previous presentation. But overall, the growth is the category is continuing to grow, and we just want to make sure that we're helping to guide the brands as well as the overall category. So a couple things to just keep in mind, and it's echoing some of the things that both Jake and Ryan said, is that you just want to cover the basics first from a production standpoint, labeling standpoint, legal standpoint, and really build that foundation. Everybody tends to be really in love with their product, and you need to be, and you have to have a great product. But part of that other foundation is this regulatory and legal piece. You want to get your labeling right from the long term. We have a number of brands that use alcohol, they use alcohol-free, and they're kind of go just through those labeling. At this point, the FDA isn't kind of cracking down in any way whatsoever, but it's just something just to think about over the long term. Jake pointed this out, which is be cautious of making any health claims. There are companies that are getting sued for a number of different reasons on making health claims. We really suggest and advise brands not to make outlandish functional ingredient claims. So just kind of be aware of that. There are some NA brands that do have functional ingredients that are part of the association, but they lead as being an adult product for a particular occasion that just happens to have these functional ingredients, and so they don't necessarily lead as a direct functional beverage. And then I think the other piece that I would say is start local, then expand regionally, and then nationally. Again, each state has its own particular kind of quirks. So really, if you're trying to scale wide, you're going to run into a lot of different challenges, or your distributor or anybody else may. So I would suggest starting local and kind of have this concentric model of growth, which is start local, go deep, and then kind of grow regionally before you end up growing nationally. And that's it. And you can find me at marcos@anba.org or on LinkedIn. So thanks, everybody.